Apocalypse Rising, nor the battle to the strong, and trials and tribulations. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton. My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today, we are doing a look back at Deep Space Nine's Season 5. It's not a review. It's like revisionist history, kind of, where we look it over. We haven't done one of these yet, so it should be a ton of fun, really exciting. There's 26 amazing episodes. How are you today, Cirroc?
I'm doing good. This is going to be a lot of fun because I think this is a great idea to be kind of reviewing the season and taking a look back each season. And I'm excited to be doing this one.
Yeah, so first and foremost, what I did earlier today, just to get an idea of how much Season 5 spanned, because I think a common theme we're going to see is just how much the show has changed in 5 seasons. The characters developed and all that, the characters, the story, everything that just has developed in the last 26 episodes. So to get an idea, I looked back, what was the first episode of Season 5? I don't know if you happen to have it in front of you, but if not, can you guess? Do you have any idea? Because I had forgotten.
I have it in my notes here. Nice. Apocalypse Rising, I think, is the first episode.
Yes. So that was the episode where the 4 dudes become Klingons. I mean, Worf's already one, but they're changed into Klingons, and they go infiltrate the Klingon Empire to reveal Gowron as a spy. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that feels like so long ago, right?
It does.
Wow.
It feels like a long time ago. And just like the amount of things I think they stuffed into this season, particularly with the growth of all of the characters, we learned so much about each character in this season.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just like the overarching story, like I thought, I would look back at what the first episode was, and it would be like, I don't know, it would be something to the effect of, say, Nor the Battle to the Strong, or Rapture, or The Darkness and the Light, with Nana Visitor, with Kira's character, going after that Cardassian with the screwed up face. But then when I realized it was even that far back, I was like, wow, they've crammed so much change, so much story arc in this, that to think that a season ago they were just talking about suspecting that there may be a changeling infiltration. And since then, the entire storyline has changed. Like, they've infiltrated, they've joined up with the Cardassians, now they're attacking the Federation. I mean, so much has happened. I don't know. I don't really know if we'll find an exact theme for this 5th season, because there are 26 episodes in it that are all very different.
Yeah, that was the other thing I kind of took away from reviewing these episodes, is how different they are. You mentioned trials and tribulations.
Yes.
That being kind of a throwback episode and an homage to the original series. So that was thrown in there. And I remember the publicity on that was huge, because that was, something heavily publicized, and, TV Guide and all of these different outlets were publishing stuff about it. But it's not just that. I mean, there's episodes, for example, for the uniform, where we get a lot of Eddington's storyline.
Yeah.
And Sisko. I mean, so the amount of coverage in this season, I think, really grows the show and the characters in the show to a huge degree. They cover so many topics. The Nor the Battle to the Strong, for example, with Jake's character, I feel like Jake's might have had the biggest growth in this season, where we get to see him kind of attack more adult themes and subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I kind of uh, I'm happy to see about kind of reflecting on this season, the growth of Jake and him being, a journalist, and actually we see him in action as a journalist. So
Mhm.
I think that adds dynamic kind of nuance to my character that wasn't there before, as far
Yeah.
as maturing.
Yeah, like upon looking back at the episodes, because I got to cheat. I got to look back and actually see what episodes there were in season 5, because there's just so many. These are 26 episode seasons back then, and the growth with all the characters. I mean, first and foremost, I agree with you. Jake has the biggest growth, but there are like 2 or 3 Jake and Nog episodes, right? There's In the Cards. There's the one, I don't remember what it's called, where they move in together and they have their squabbles. We'll see that a little later. I'm sure we'll remember which one that is. We have the most recent episodes where now Nog is part of the Defiant and the battle out there, and Jake is staying at home in unfriendly territories and behind enemy lines, basically. And but then I'm scrolling through these episodes. Odo has his first sexual encounter, so Odo becomes a man basically in this season. Quark and Odo have their understanding, their fight and subsequent understanding at the top of the mountain in the ascent, right? Kira has a baby. Like you said, there's the Eddington situation. Lita becomes much more of a character, and she and Rom get married. I mean, that's all in the course of one season. She had a giant arc too. She had only had like 1 or 2 episodes before that, and now suddenly she's got a huge storyline and is a part of the Deep Space Nine storyline. Odo and Kira are growing together. Worf and Dax, they got into a relationship in this season. It feels like they've been going out forever. They have not. They got together. I think it was looking for Parmok in all the wrong places, which was episode 3 of season 5. So in this season, they connected. I mean, how much has happened?
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, it was in this season episode number 7, which is Let He Who Is Without Sin.
Yes.
And that was the Lita episode, breaking up with Bashir on Stex Bajor, Club Med, and with Vanessa Williams.
Yeah.
So we went from literally seeing them break up and having that kind of really cool breakup session to Rom and Lita getting together, and so you do see a huge amount of growth in her character.
That was the lead up to being with Rom.
Oh yeah,
there it is.
Yeah. When we got it the first time, thank you though.
Well, like I said before we started recording, I'm a little sleepy today, so I don't know if my delivery is working today. I guess I'm going to have to say things twice to make sure I understand my own jokes.
And so, just to piggyback off of what we were talking about, even that episode with Odo, I mean, these episodes really feel like a long time ago, and that's the beauty of having 26 episodes in a season. You cover a lot of material. But I was going to bring up things past where Odo, they threw the set back to Turek Nor, and Odo was reliving the time of kind of accusing these people of something that they weren't guilty of, and him having to deal with that kind of trauma that he's been living with, and the kind of blood that he felt was on his hands. I felt like another growth episode. It felt like there were a few episodes that dealt with the station being altered in some way, so it wasn't like just a normal promenade. It was either Terek Nor, or it was gray. It was all gray, carpeting or something. When
Yeah.
certain episodes. So yeah, there was a lot of things happening in this season, and I did enjoy it. And the lead up towards the end also started to become really climactic as well. So not only did they start to cover the basis with character growth and development, but they also plotline turned up the temperature on what was at stake for DS9 and the future of Bajor and the Federations.
You know who also another character growth moment with Odo, I realized at the very end of season 4 was when he got his changeling status taken away, his street cred among the founders, right? And he got it back in this season. So at the very beginning of this season, he's just become a solid, and then he meets Dr. Mora again, and he changes them. So that was only a half a season long that he wasn't a changeling. But when I look back and remember it, it feels like he was a solid for much longer than that. I don't know. Maybe we should just go over every episode very quickly, because I think that's going to be a really good question for the free for all. I want to ask them two things. One is, their favorite episode of season 5, because that's kind of a good standard barometer of where people's heads are at, even though that's not correct English, but it's vernacular, whatever. And the other one is who had the biggest character growth and the biggest character change, and what was most interesting, like, character story arc, because there's so much. So the first one was, let me just check this out. Apocalypse Rising, right? The log line is, with the war between the Klingons, the Federation intensifying, Sisko must make a plan to expose Gowron as a changeling. Odo is still having trouble with being a solid. So yeah, this is just like right when he started being a solid. I think it happened I think that was the cliffhanger kind of thing at the end of season 4. Yeah, I just checked. The final episode of season 4 is called Broken Link. So obviously that's what that means.
Yeah.
And when we reviewed that episode, we had director James L. Conway join us, who was awesome. You remember him well, right?
Yes, I do. And I actually, I remember also that Avery's in a Klingon uniform or outfit with makeup, and I can recall him saying at several different conventions how much he disliked wearing all that stuff. So that was one thing that I definitely walked away with watching this episode. Actually, and another person was Colin, if I'm not mistaken. He's also dressed up in the full Klingon garb. So both of them did not enjoy the experience, and certainly can sympathize with Michael Dorn having to wear that for so many years.
So another thing. Oh, I didn't hear that last thing. What did you say?
No, that was it. I just said,
cool.
They didn't enjoy wearing it.
Yeah. So another thing, so James L. Conway was awesome, really cool guest. Loved having him. It was such a pleasure and a surprise. It's always kind of a surprise when, we ask somebody and they're like, oh yeah, sure, I'd love to. And we're like, oh, great, because we'd love to have you. So let's do it. What a deal. But another one was the second episode of season 5, The Ship. We had Caitlin Hopkins join us. If you remember her, she was the Vorta, who was very convincing. She was very influential. She knew how to influence men in general, but it didn't really work too much on Sisko because he's got mind control and discipline. But she was an amazing guest, and I remember that is one of the episodes that I remember, from my first watch back in the day. Like there are, like a handful, 10, 12, 15 episodes that really stand out. That was one of them because it just kind of gave us that different feeling. You weren't on a station, you were out on some rocky mountain. And we see the changeling die. I don't know. That was a great episode though.
A very good episode, and also her performance, as a Vorta was kind of the only really other good Vorta performance we had seen outside of Jeffrey Combs, who does it so well. But she brought her A game, and I enjoyed her performance. And yes, it was a pleasure to have her on the show.
Yeah, she was awesome. I don't think she's ever back again. I think that was her only episode. Although she is in a Voyager episode. Spoiler, she plays like a Wish Captain Janeway, I think is what it is. There's like the joke about like what I ordered on Wish and what I got, because it's like you never get what you want on wish.com. But it's like some clothing store where you get, I've been suckered by it too. I'm like, whoa, cool, this awesome, warrior shirt. And then I get it, I'm like, this looks trashy. But anyway, like, so she kind of that's a terrible way to say it. It looks different than the picture. And so she and another guy who plays like the fake Tuvok, they kind of look like there's like this meme that's like what I ordered on Wish and what I got, because they're kind of like the, synthetic version of Janeway and Tuvok. It's an interesting episode. But anyway, I think that's the only other Star Trek episode she's in. And then we had Looking for Parmok in All the Wrong Places. And if you'll recall, that is the one where Quark tries to pursue Grilka. And then Worf like helps him with her by, they got this contraption where Worf's movements can translate into Quark's Batleth skills.
Yeah. And that episode was directed by Andy Robinson.
Right.
So I'm not sure if it was his first time directing, but a lot of first, directors in this episode, sometimes some of them first timers, I think, looking back on this season.
Something really interesting. This is another thing that stood out in that episode. This was the episode, I just looked at the log line, where, quote, O'Brien and Kira grow uncomfortably close together. Where they start, where he's like massaging her inner thigh, and Keiko's like,
her ankles,
and Keiko's like, Miles, get up in there, go up higher on her thigh or whatever. She get her butt's got to be, or whatever. Yeah. I don't remember the specifics, but it was like, dude, Keiko, do you realize what's going on here, man? And she's like, get up in there, Miles, get the oils out.
He was like, go help her out of the tub.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, there was a bunch of stuff that got a little awkward moments there. But it was an unusual situation that they were experiencing. And so I think they played that really well. Those kind of moments were authentic feeling for me. The rubbing of the feet and his uncomfort level was very believable for me. I think Phil Morris, I have Phil Morris written down here in the notes, and I believe he was guest star in this episode.
He must have been, yes, he was a Klingon. Yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah, and he's a hilarious actor too as well. So yeah,
and that was where Dax finally convinces Worf that there's a spark there. At the end she says a line like, sometimes you have something right under your nose and you don't realize it or something. And he looks and there she is. And so go get him, Worf. But then next episode was Nor the Battle to the Strong, which we all know is your biggie. Our guest was director Kim Friedman, who we've had a couple times before. She's amazing. But this was almost like a Jake Sisko coming out party, right? This is kind of when you're coming out and kind of trailblazing and forging your own path. And you're not just the emissary's son. You're not just that rascally kid. They're giving you kind of your first adult storyline, right?
Yeah, they're giving me a lot to chew on. It's it's a Jake centric episode. When we spoke with Kim Friedman, one of the things that she mentioned concerned her was the voiceover work and some of the heavy scenes. But thankfully, we were able to pull it all off. I think it worked well. It showed a lot of growth in Jake as a person, kind of taking on a new perspective of reality and seeing firsthand kind of the the fight or flight moments, the dangerous moments of life and death that people face in these wartime situations. So definitely a lot of growth for Jake. I was eager to have this as a challenge and get it done. And I think it worked well because there were a lot of scenes there that, show the rigor of battle and how fragile and frail all of us can be under certain circumstances, dealing with emotions and fear.
Remember, that was the episode that also, going along with that, had a lot of day players, right? There were like 4 or 5 people that just, they got 3 to 10 lines in that episode. And boy, they really found some great actors that knocked it out of the park, even with only being on camera for like 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes, some of them. Really impressive. And they kind of had to, because basically there was Jake, there was Bashir, and that's it. So those other actors needed to help carry that episode. Otherwise, it would just be the 2 of you on an island, basically, trying to carry an episode by yourselves. And they did a great job.
Yes. That's the other thing about DS9. Not only do we have the cast, we have the recurring extended cast, and then we have, certain people that are maybe one-off, like in this situation. And even those people deliver A-quality material when it's all said and done. And yes, this episode was full of, and when we had a Bolian in there, that was pretty good. I liked it. I liked his jokes. And we had this moment as well where Bashir shows a lot of courage and becomes kind of a hero and risking himself to go get the generator. So it was kind of it was a big moment for everybody. There was a lot of moments there where people were faced with life or death decisions, and I think that was it came across well in this episode.
Bashir's biggest life or death situation was taking the captain's son with him in a life or death mission. He's like, man, I'm going to be in big. He's going to face some wrath pretty soon. Anyway, so that's definitely a standout episode. The next one was The Assignment. Now, this one was an interesting one. This was kind of one of those little bottle episodes. The log line is: an alien entity has possessed Keiko's body and is holding it hostage until O'Brien completes an assignment for it. Yeah, so this was one of those kind of standalone episodes. It was interesting. For me, it stood out as an opportunity for Keiko, for Rosalind, to show her acting chops, because she never really she basically plays O'Brien's wife. And there's some highs, there's some lows there. She has a lot of things there. But this was her first chance to really stretch that out a bit more, and try something new.
Yeah. And it reminded me of those thrillers like The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, or one of those kind of movies where it's the inside job, and somebody's being tortured and forced to do something. Uh, it was a good display for her. Also, it was a Molly appearance, so we got to
Yeah.
see Hannah, the wonderful Hannah, who's so sweet.
Chewing up the scenery.
Yeah, chewing it up
Stealing
and
the
just
show.
being adorable. Yeah, being adorable as she always is. And so, yeah, but I would, it's not pertinent to any major themes. It's just more of a let's get Keiko some more to do, because she's clearly capable, and she was doing movies at that time, like crazy. So I'm pretty sure they were like, "Hey, we have this really talented actress, and she comes in for one or two lines. Let's give her more to do," which I'm glad they did.
Good point. We're going to take a super quick break. Malissa Longo is going to join us for this second segment. And we got a lot more to cover. This is going to be so much fun. This is so much fun, actually. And we'll be right back on the seventh rule, if you can believe that. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Malissa Longo has joined us, if you can believe that.
Yeah.
Actually, I think Aron, this might have been his most appearances to date. Aron Eisenberg as Nog in season 5, probably the most episodes, especially in the last 5 or 10 episodes of season 5.
Yeah, definitely.
But more on that in a moment. Right now, we're talking about Trials and Tribulations, which was, Cirroc, as you said, that was the big thing that everybody was talking about at that time, right?
Yeah, and I wasn't in the episode, but I was on the set when they were filming, so I got to see all the hoopla that was being made, and photo shoots, and other people from other branches of the Paramount executives mostly would be down there to kind of soak in on the magic of the moment. I had no really clue about the previous Tribble episode.
Right.
So I didn't really understand so much how much of an homage it was. So I just thought it was cool to have a bunch of stuffed little animals around that you can throw around it. Because it made like the perfect snowball. Like a furry snowball.
Yeah.
You could basically throw it at anybody.
Yeah. That's got to be so much fun on set.
Oh, triple flag fight.
A triple fight, yeah. Exactly.
It was a groundbreaking episode. Malissa, do you remember the first time you watched it? Was it when it did its first run through, or did you see it years later?
I think I saw it the first run through, but I don't know that I appreciated it that much because I hadn't seen the original series one. So, but I definitely have a better appreciation now that I'm more immersed into the world of Trek. So, and I think it was brilliantly done. The colors were amazing, and it was just a brilliant homage to to Trials and Tribulations. Or wait, yeah. The original
Trouble with Tribbles.
The Trouble with Tribbles. Yes.
I remember it when it had its first run, the first time, because there were commercials leading up to it, like previews, and they showed, I think in the preview it showed like the fight scene at 10 forward or whatever it was, the mess hall, and we remember seeing that and be like, whoa, that's what the whole buzz was with the nerds, with myself, my friend Darth, and his dad. We'd usually watch it together. And we're like, whoa, they spliced in the original series with what's going on now. And we're just like super excited to watch it, So Cirroc, we saw that buzz. There was definitely they definitely put a little bit of extra money into the marketing, it seemed like, because it was definitely something that was going to stand out in people's minds. And, it's a home run. It's an A+ in my mind. What else was a home run? And
really quick, I just want to add to that, as far as the technology at the time. And I believe that was around the time when the technology existed to be able to splice two different eras of film together. Forrest Gump had done it in the Forrest Gump movie, another Paramount production, where they had Forrest Gump kind of shaking hands with the president back in the old footage.
Yeah.
And they blended stuff together in that way. And I believe it was the time period at which they were starting to introduce that level of technology with CGI and whatever else.
Right. It was just incredible.
Special effects. So yeah, it was really well done in that way.
It was shocking, not just that because they did it, but that they just did it so well. Like, even to this day, we look at it and it stands the test of time 25 years later. Unbelievable.
Seamless.
Yeah.
Cirroc, this was the moment. I'm just mad that I can't borrow.
That's where I'm going to vacation next summer. I'm going to be there.
I want to borrow Bashir's tank top here, that purple, the purple and orange. He's wearing the Seventh Rule colors, purple and orange. So
yeah.
But that was that was an interesting episode that some people liked and some people liked less. Because apparently the reason some people liked it less was because they thought Worf was a bit of a grumpy Gussie throughout. But then there was Things Past. The log line for that, to refresh your memory: Sisko, Dax, Odo, and Garrick find themselves in the past when Cardassians controlled a station, and a crime that Odo investigated may be the key. Cirroc, you mentioned that one as well. That was really cool. I love seeing what it was like before, with the different lighting and the different carpeting, as you mentioned before, all that stuff.
Well, and it adds to the world building of where it's been and where it's come. It's wonderful. And it was much darker than lighting and everything was so much darker.
Well, I like the way Deep Space Nine attacks the subject of post-traumatic stress and how people are dealing with instances and issues in their life, and as a result are in a depressed state. And I think this is another example of them dealing with that, with Odo's character showing, the importance of kind of resolving these kinds of issues that are inside of us. I think that's what they're doing their best to try to give a way forward for people to go through their own healing process. I like the way they write these kinds of stories.
Great point.
Yeah, and I don't know if they intentionally did it from the viewpoint of PTSD, which is great. I think it's an organic way of looking at how real people deal with trauma, and without slapping a label on it, but it's wonderful that they show the different aspects of that from different sides and different perspectives, and how it affects relationship and all that.
Totally. Speaking of relationships, The Ascent. That one, that's the one that we kind of mentioned earlier, Cirroc. That one had the interesting dichotomy of two enemies, Odo and Quark, frenemies, kind of, being forced to kind of work together and come together. At the same time, the dichotomy there is that at the same time, you have Jake and Nog, best friends, moving in together and kind of having their first major fight or pulling away, kind of situation. So it was just that interesting thing of those two enemies kind of forced to come together, and the two friends kind of being pushed apart. But that was the first of several Jake and Nog episodes.
Yeah, that was the episode where Nog kind of disses my muscles.
Yeah, that's the one.
That is the
I'll
one.
never forget that.
Well, Melissa's
doing
lighting up a
push-ups
bit
ever
too much
since.
on that one.
It's just the way he did it was like, oh my gosh, it's so it was funny, but kind of on he nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. Nog says to me, he says, "You wouldn't last a day in the academy. You couldn't fold a shirt if your life depended on it."
Boy, you're gonna remember those forever.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. But I loved it because it's two young adults kind of going through the motions of life, finding themselves, learning about what they like and dislike about themselves and each other. And it begins the stepping stone for our kind of journey into our own paths in life. So I do love these moments with Jake and Nog.
Me too. Very memorable. Both of those storylines were very memorable to me on the first watch, whatever it was, 25 years ago. But I didn't remember that they were together. Like, I remember the episode where Jake and Nog move in together and have their battles, and the dad's being funny, Sisko's being cool. And I remember the Odo and Quark on the mountaintop, but I forgot that they were together. And that's really makes this episode special as well to me. But then there was Rapture. Now this one was another one of those kind of standalone type episodes in a way, in that Sisko starts to have these visions on how to help Bajor, but they're killing him. And that's when he tells them, don't enter the treaty, don't join the Federation. Right. And that comes to fruition at the very end.
Mm-hmm. Bajor must stand alone.
Right.
Yeah.
And other notable thing, real quick, Cirroc, I want to remind you, because something very notable there, directed by Jonathan West. And whenever you get a DP, especially one that was like the main DP for Star Trek for years,
yes,
when he gets a chance to direct, there are going to be some interesting things to watch, to keep an eye on,
Yeah, I mean, and just the level of familiarity he has with everybody. He's there every day. Usually directors are coming in and, they're in for the week. Maybe another week or two of preparation, but it's a 2-week job maybe at best. But a guy who's director of photography like Jonathan West, he's going to be there every day, day in, day out. He has a relationship with the camera guys, the crew. So when he wants to execute his vision, it's he has a higher level of familiarity with everybody behind the camera.
Speaking of behind the camera, I forgot to mention that in Let He Who Is Without Sin, our review of that, we were joined by the lovely Chase Masterson, who is amazing, beautiful inside and out. So that was really cool. And I'm looking back at my many, many, many organized notes, because I'm a nerd like that. And that was the episode where our free-for-all crew surprised me for my birthday with with pictures of me with no shirt on and all that. So if anybody wants to see me running around with no shirt on and Cirroc being very displeased by this, check out episode 120 where we review Let He Who's Without Sin. That was, I can laugh about it now, but looking back at it when it happened, I was just like, well, I gotta just go with it. I've pranked these guys. I pranked Melissa in between the segments just now. We pranked Cirroc and Aron on our 25th. That I gotta just take it. If I dish it out, I gotta deal with it too. But anyway, that was a fun time.
That shirtless picture with you leaning up on that fridge, man.
Hey, that fridge liked it. That fridge was asking for it.
And it was a source of debate whether or not to share that photo as the background or not. Some were like, no, and some were like, yes. And eventually everybody just did their own.
You were in these meetings, Melissa, and you didn't overrule them and say, don't do it.
I orchestrated the meetings.
Yeah.
All right. I deserved it.
Because I orchestrated it.
Good job.
So, yes.
I will say that notwithstanding, that was actually a highlight upon looking back at birthdays. That did make it a very fun and memorable birthday because, it's always the thought that counts. And it was really cool. And very much appreciated, by the way. It is a memorable birthday that I'll always cherish. And it was a very good time. And I was not expecting to have fun on my birthday. I'm like, oh, cool, I'll record a show. That'll be a fun thing for me to do on my birthday. But I didn't realize it was going to be extra, extra fun. So thanks to everybody that made that happen. It actually was very appreciated, especially when it was over. And I was like, okay, because I was like stressing the whole time, like, what's going on? But anyway, really, really had a fun time, and I appreciated all the time and effort put into it. But then there was the darkness and the light. And that was when the mysterious assassin is killing all of Kira's friends, which was cool because these actors that we saw in Kira's past and from Kira's past in previous episodes got to have one more day on Star Trek, which I thought was cool. They got to bring these actors back for one more run.
Yeah, nothing like getting hired again when you think you're done.
When you think your story's over,
It's always the whole we want to work.
This was the episode with the weird kind of messed up face guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a horror episode. Every once in a while, DS9 kind of it leans into the thriller / horror lane and kind of plays its hand over there. So this is definitely one of those. Yeah, it was dark and like kind of a dark set. I remember that episode
with a good mystery.
A good mystery, yeah.
Mystery that it wasn't a typical mystery.
Yeah.
Speaking of a typical mystery, we also had The Begotten, which was when Odo's, I'm doing air quotes, dad, Dr. Mora, comes by and is helping them with that infant changeling. And this was the one that ends up with Odo getting his changeling superpowers back from the infant that says, I'm going to turn you into a bird, and now you can do it yourself forever, which was a little confusing, but beautiful. Very nice. It was a really good story.
Odo's chemical makeup may have not have changed, which is why the infant could have given him that gift of life, since the infant had the what's the word I'm looking for? Somehow it knew that it was not going to survive. So maybe
instinctually, maybe with the foresight.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Melissa. Go ahead.
Oh no, and I was going to say, and that's the one where Kira gives birth and the birth of the cowbell.
Oh, bless you for saying that. This one.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Cowbell. Yes.
No, I was just going to say the thing I remember most about that episode was the trust that Dr. Mora had to re-earn from Odo, because Odo didn't trust his testing methods and he thought he was being cool. And it turns out that Dr. Mora did really care and was concerned about the life of this changeling. And the other thing that I noticed too was that we learned that the founders send these babies everywhere to determine whether a culture will accept them and to see how they're treated. So they will decide whether they wanted to go there or not. I thought that was a clever idea as well.
Right. That was the most beautiful line of, like, they said something like, the way that other cultures treat the defenseless tells us more about them. That was really good. Then we had For the Uniform, which was, oh, by the way, Dr. Mora's first name, everybody knows, is Jim. It's a football joke for everybody out there. That is For the Uniform. You mentioned For the Uniform, Cirroc. That was one of the beautiful Eddington episodes. And I think that's the line. Is that the line where Sisko says you betrayed your uniform, which was just, and the way he delivered it was so powerful.
Yeah. He says to him, you didn't leave Starfleet, you betrayed Starfleet.
Yeah.
That had some of the best things. But then, Sisko does kind of go a little bit crazy in his, he takes it super personal that Eddington deceived him this whole time.
Oh yeah.
And you feel the wrath of that.
Yeah. I mean, that's
very good
kind of honest too, because he trusted Eddington, and Eddington betrayed that trust. So it wasn't just about betraying his uniform; he betrayed Sisko as well. Somebody who's supposed to have your back, and then they turn around and okay. Yeah.
So then there was a two-parter, mid-season two-parter. There was In Purgatory's Shadow and By Inferno's Light. And that was the one where, Worf and Garrick go and check out this coded message, and it turns out, Dominion stuff's going on. They discover Bashir. They find Martok, one-eyed Martok. Like, it's just this big, huge, like if the Dominion storyline's going like this, everybody listening in, I'm doing something amazing right now. It kind of goes and ticks up. You know what I mean? It hits a little tick and goes up.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just the fact that there was a whole another group of people that we didn't know about. And it showed the level of infiltration that the changelings had. So that was another kind of carryover from season 4, when we learned that the changelings have infiltrated Starfleet and they're trying to find them. Now we see to what extent, and the guy who we thought was Bashir this whole time, is not Bashir. So that was pretty amazing too, because you kind of almost want to go back and watch and see if he was any different in the last 10 episodes or whatnot.
But he wasn't, and we found out afterwards that they didn't tell him at all. They didn't tell Sid so that he wouldn't act it out any differently. Now, of course, on that particular episode, he did act a little differently. He's like, "Would you like a sandwich, perhaps?" And we're like, "Okay, now I catch you. Now I see the gleam in your eyes.
Now I got you." Yeah.
And speaking of Bashir, the next one was Dr. Bashir, I presume. We had Chase Masterson again as a guest. This is the one that really gives Bashir his big jump in his storyline as well. He's no longer the young bumbling doctor or the eager-eyed kid, He's now like, oh, by the way, I'm a supreme being. It's this whole thing. Don't worry, I've been faking. I'm really better than everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Didn't we have a guest star in this episode? I thought.
Yeah, it was Chase.
Okay.
Oh, a guest star. Well,
also Bob Picardo.
Right.
Bob Picardo, yeah. That's what
and Bashir's parents. But yeah, absolutely. Robert Picardo.
Yeah, Bob Picardo's in this episode. That's right. Yeah. And he was great at kind of, investigating about Bashir and trying to ask questions of the other crew about him. And so yeah, that was a good episode.
And that's also when O'Brien that was enjoying way too much watching Bashir, but the Bashir clone walk into the wall over and over again.
Yes.
That was great. Then we had A Simple Investigation, which is basically the bottom line when Odo humps somebody for the first time. So that was what they call it on that Star Trek great moments card. They called it Odo's first intimacy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Bedroom
Yes,
eyes.
that was bedroom eyes. Yes.
Oh, right. That's what it was. That was her big pickup line.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we don't need to get too much. That one was, I think we covered that one. I wish we had that card. That trading card was the best. But the next one was business as usual. But again, one final thing to say, that was a big change in Odo's character arc as well. He's, it's kind of like more growth. He kind of becomes a man. First, he went from like a changeling to a solid to a changeling. Now he's finally enjoyed the company of a woman. And that's all there needs to be said about that. And then Kira was like, well, maybe he's not so bad. Then there was business as usual. The log line for that, to refresh everybody's memory, Quark must wrestle with his conscience when he becomes involved with arms merchants. That had some very interesting guest stars as well, directed by Alexander Siddig, of course.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was so interesting. It was interesting to hear Armin's stories about how Sid handled the actor on that show. A very good, talented actor, but also, you get to.
So we're going to go to our free-for-all in just a minute, but before we do, just real quick, this last one before we hit the final 6, Ties of Blood and Water. This is when Kira basically loses 2 dads in this episode, right? Because she remembers losing her first dad, and she loses this gentleman that thinks of her as his daughter. It was directed by Avery Brooks beautifully, and that was also a good standout episode.
Another example of post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was showing how people cope, and how Kira copes with stress. It was initially to run away from it and to avoid it, and she deals with having to face it head on in this episode. So that's where her growth comes. Good episode.
One final thing to say in the episode we just passed, Business as Usual, which was the great Quark Dilemma episode. Something to remember is that Armin Shimmerman joined us for that episode, gave us some great insights, really cool conversations. So everybody at home, make sure you go check out our review of Business as Usual. It is episode number 131, 7th Rule episode number 131. It's with Armin Shimmerman, and that's a great one. So we're going to move to the free-for-all. We do want to give a very special thanks to Carmen, a.k.a. Skillet, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arucan,
Arucan,
Yvette Blackmon, Homer Freezy out somewhere in New Yeezy, Eve England, the cookie maker in Wales, Dr. Anne-Marie Segal, Dr. Susan B. Gruner, Tim Baum, Titus Mohler, John Mann, Mark Roco, Darlena Marie, and Rex. Wood. Mark Roco. We should call him, his middle name is Almond. Okay. Here we go.
No.
Yeah, he's a tasty treat. Anyway, we'll be right back on the, like Almond Roco, whatever. Everybody, welcome back to the 7th Rule with Cirroc Lofton, of course. We also have,
hello.
See, he knows. We have Malissa Longo, of course. TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri. We have Homer Freezy out somewhere in New Yeezy. We have Eve England out in Wales. Susan V. Gruner, PhD. Real quick, oh my God, everybody look. If you're listening in only, you got to check this out on YouTube. Check out what TJ's hat. Your fez, we know it's awesome. But Sue is wearing this really amazing outfit. You want to tell us what it is very quickly?
Sure. It's the dress that Linda Park wore on the Enterprise episode Civilization. And I bought I bought the dress. I bought the whole thing. It was sold at Christie's as a group. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Doesn't do it any justice, though.
Chet, well, can you stand up for just a moment so we can get it? Because this does it justice. Look at this.
Yes.
The detail. And this
She
is
says the dress. She means the dress.
actually screen worn by Hoshi Sato. Well, Linda Park.
And the beautiful cloak that goes with it that weighs 200 pounds. But yeah, it's beautifully made. It has her name on every little thing. It says Enterprise, and it has, I don't know if you can see, but it has her name.
Wow.
On every little piece.
It's like a piece of art from the wardrobe department.
It is.
Amazing. Just one of the coolest things. And the attention to detail. Look
So
at the necklace.
pretty.
So pretty.
Yeah, I'm sure it was probably made in Mexico or something.
Well, I don't know. Those shows have often had their own seamstresses.
Made
Oh,
in
yeah.
Liza.
Rising, yeah.
And also, Eve England is wearing, she's got a couple things from Abyssinian Kiosk. I saw the shirt. I saw the mug.
Candy corn.
Yeah. Gorgeous. Beautiful. Everybody
Candy
can get,
corn.
you can't get the Hoshi Sato thing. Sorry, that's Sue's. But you can get the awesome Abyssinian Kiosk designs from Cirroc's sister. The link is in the description box below. I see TJ wearing his Chat Pack shirt. There it is.
Yeah.
I finally
Gorgeous.
got one.
Gorgeous, beautiful, great color.
Nice.
And everybody, you can get that at our online store in the description box below. We've got the link. All right, back to work. So we were on episode 20. Sorry, 6 left. Very quickly, that was Ferengi Love Songs. Chase Masterson was our guest that day. That was a really fun one. We all had a blast. Quark doesn't know whether to be panicked or overjoyed when he learns that his mother is the new lover of the Grand Negus. Remember that one, Cirroc?
Yes, I do. How could you forget?
Also, Soldiers of the Empire. Daxon Worf accompany Martok on his first command since being held by the Dominion. That was another PTSD one, right, Melissa? That seems to be like the third one of the season that really dealt with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
On Martok's part. Yes.
Right.
I feel like these we just reviewed.
Yeah, Dogs in this episode too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. That was a great one. He was in like 4 or 5 episodes in a row starting around now. Then there was Children of Time. Yeah. Our guest was writer Ethan Kalk. And that was a great one because he got to give us the insights on, where he got the inspiration for writing the episode, on the whole pitching process and all that. And it was just a really fun and interesting episode because we kind of get one of those what if stories. Like, what if they never come back to the station and they have to create a life? What would happen then? And it was really cool.
We find out that Odo has feelings, or Kira finds out that Odo has feelings for her. We already know.
Oh, we know.
Yeah.
Great one. Then we've got Blaze of Glory, which is another and the final Eddington episode, right? Where Sisko basically has to get Eddington out of his prison cell to help him on a mission. And Eddington, we find out he's married and all this stuff. And he and his wife are kind of happy to see each other, but they're also like, whatever.
I know. The warm welcome.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go out in a blaze of glory,
that's the one.
Yeah.
Then we've got Empok Nor, which was really cool. It's kind of like the sister station to Deep Space Nine. That one was kind of like a thriller. Andy Robinson gets to show off his acting chops. Aron Eisenberg gets to show off his acting chops. There's some really good character growth there for both of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What to say about that?
Trying to remember that a little bit. But.
It was when Garrick goes psycho and starts killing everyone on Empire. Not he killed one person, but yes. And
okay, yeah.
And Nog was the eager beaver volunteering for all the dangerous stuff.
Then we had a quintessential Jake and Nog episode in the cards, which was just, I did not remember this one as much as I wish I did. So it was a real delight to watch it, a couple weeks ago again. It was just, I had forgotten what a great episode it was.
Yes. Soulless minions of orthodoxy.
All for the Willie Mays baseball card.
Yes.
And now lastly, we had Call to Arms. Our guest was the legendary writer, Mr. Robert Hewitt Wolf, who has been a guest a few times on our show. And we absolutely love and appreciate him and his time and his work. This was the last time that he was on the writing staff, at least on a regular basis. So it's a real pleasure to have him join us. And this episode is, it's where the yamik sauce hits the fan, right? It's when they all kind of have to what's called cut bait and run or something like that, right?
Yeah. Did we ever figure out what a yamik is?
No.
Working on it.
But we will. We're going to ask Robert and Ira, and one of them will know or make something up.
Yeah.
So that leaves us to where we are. What were you going to say, Cirroc? Unbelievable episode. Unbelievable. It was rated 9.1 on IMDb. Just excellent.
Yes, and Robert talked about not knowing where season 6, episode 1 was going to be because they always left it up in the air at the end of the season. So they definitely they turned the temperature up at the end of this season 5 and left you wanting more after watching it. Yeah,
which was also a fun tidbit. About the writers' room and how they approached the season finale, and then the season premiere of the next season. That was pretty cool as well.
They really left it that way, not knowing the plan for the next season. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think so. There's no bind I don't think they can get themselves out of. They're just clever writers, so I'm sure they're able to get themselves out of something if they wanted to. But no, I'll take Robert at his word that that's how they left it, and that he really didn't have any idea going forward of what season 6 would entail. So I believe him. And I also believe him because when we were filming, they were constantly doing rewrites. So literally, I'm showing up to work. I studied all the material for the day, but then everything I studied is completely thrown out of the window because there's the rewrites. and so I'm like, when are you guys rewriting this? Because last night it was cool. Today it's not. So you must have been up all night writing. So I would believe that they would not know that far in advance, because even as we were filming, they still didn't quite 100% know what they wanted in or out.
Well,
and that's where all the color cheats came in the script.
Yeah,
And so all of us that are watching at home, we're like, wow, what an amazing final episode. I can't wait to see what's going on. I can't wait to see how they tie it all together. And the writers are like, yeah, us too. We haven't, who knows? We'll figure it out in a couple. We're on vacation though. We'll figure it out later.
Well, it's kind of fun that they took the journey with us though.
Totally.
Did you guys have a contract every year, or was that part of it? Who was going to stay and who was going to go, or it just seems so weird to me that they didn't have an outline right from day one about what 7 seasons would be.
Oh,
yeah. I don't know the answer to that question. I think maybe it's a general outline. I don't know if it has any kind of specifics to it. I know I would guess that, details like Odo was feeling guilty about letting some people go. I mean, about trying somebody for murder that wasn't really good. I think that, how could they get that specific so far early on in the process? I just doubt that that's possible. But I think that overall they may have had a 7-year arc that they wanted to cover of maybe this whole Dominion War, maybe going into war and then coming out of it. Maybe that was part of it. But I don't think that they could have gotten to so many specifics because there's so many ways it branches and goes that it's so difficult for them. If they did, that would be amazing. But I just don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had a general idea of where they wanted to start and where they would like to end up, and it's more of a broad picture.
Totally. They didn't do it in the U.S. No, nobody liked that joke. Thanks.
Wait, they didn't. I didn't hear it.
It was a broad picture. It wasn't in the U.S. It was. Anyway.
Oh, gotcha.
Anyway, watch Homer. Watch Homer. Here we.
Here it comes.
Oh, it's very subtle. It's very subtle. So here's something I'm dying to know, you guys. First off is, what is your favorite episode of season 5? I'm going to list them off very quickly just to refresh your memory. We have Apocalypse Rising, The Ship, Looking for Parmok in All the Wrong Places, Nor the Battle to the Strong, The Assignment, Trials and Tribulations, Let He Who Is Without Sin, Things Past, The Ascent, Rapture, The Darkness and the Light, The Begotten, For the Uniform, In Purgatory's Shadow and By Inferno's Light, Dr. Bashir, I Presume, A Simple Investigation, Business as Usual, Ties of Blood and Water, Ferengi Love Songs, Soldiers of the Empire, Children of Time, Blaze of Glory, Empok Nor, In the Cards, and Call to Arms. I know. TJ, are you ready for this one? I feel like you showed up today prepared for this question.
That's funny that you say that because I am.
Yes.
So there are so many good episodes in this season that it's really hard to choose a favorite, and so I chose 5.
Excellent.
Which 5?
That'll work.
Nor the Battle to the Strong is one of my favorite episodes of all time, featuring Jake Sisko and him kind of going through that journey. I love that journey.
Mm-hmm.
I like Rapture because it's a good Sisko episode, and also Jake.
And a great song by Blondie. That's all right. Remember Blondie? It was like 1979.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry, please continue.
Yeah, no worries. For the Uniform is one of my favorite episodes of all time. Also, Soldiers of the Empire. Although I can't, learn that song, the battle song. And In the Cards. Like, who doesn't like In the Cards?
Mm-hmm.
It's a great episode. And I specifically avoided like the big episodes because, of course, those are everybody's favorites.
Counterculture guy. This guy, he's like, I'm not a sellout. I'm not going to go with the biggies. I'm going to go with the ones that deserve the love, right? Sometimes they deserve some mentions. Who Who else looks prepared? Melissa's still looking at all the episodes right now to figure out hers. Sue's nodding yes, meaning she's doing the same. Eve is completely prepared. So she is like ready. She's like, pick me, damn it. Pick me. I'm ready. I'm so ready. All right, Eve, what do you got?
Oh, I think it's the same as what TJ said. It's just when you reel them off like that, you sort of realize how many amazing episodes there are, and just the whole season is just, it just got better and better, and you just got better episodes all the time. I just think it is almost impossible to choose a favorite, because I think as a whole you have to sort of see the whole thing together, because it just develops so many different characters. I mean, for Jake's character, I was surprised looking, rewatching it, how Jake gets so many great episodes and a great development arc in this season. I think it's probably my favorite one for Jake. I mean, obviously we've got the Trials and Tribulations one. That is just a classic one, but again, it's a very obvious one. In Purgatory Shadow, the twist, you can't beat that twist, and I think that's where it really starts for me. Really, just that this is where all of the excitement happens. We've had all of the intrigue, we've had all of the the infiltration of the Dominion, and we sort of get to this point where everything starts coming together, which I just think is just genius. But I think as is Halloween, I think I'm going to go with the less obvious answer and say Empok Nor, just because it was really creepy, Halloweeny. So, and I just there was something about that. I think when we reviewed it last time, we were looking at that, it was just so different because of the colouring and the set design and everything about that. So yeah, I'll go with the least obvious answer for this one.
I knew it.
No, you didn't.
No, I had no idea.
No, I didn't.
All right, Homer, you look very prepared. Do you have a favorite or a group of favorites? Are there episodes that you think deserve some extra love that don't usually get them?
I'm not going to try to be a contrarian like TJ. I know that Ira,
so you're being contrary to me.
Yes, I'm being contrarian.
Therefore, you are a contrarian.
Yeah, I'm being contrarian. So I'm going to go Trials there too, but Trials and Tribulations, and that one, because I love the original series and I like those colors, and it was amazing how they're able to bring that back and to recreate it the way that it was, and using the lighting and everything just to do that. And then if you haven't been, you got to go to Ticonderoga, New York, and take the tour of the sets that they have there, because you're going to feel like, oh my God, I know where they did this stuff for Trials and Tribulations. But the one that's my favorite, it's not that's like I necessarily think it's the best. It's my favorite, and it's because of our episode when we had James Conway on, and I had the script for Apocalypse Rising, which was his script that he had used, and he has all of his camera angles and the way he's got the shots set up and everything, and so I can kind of visualize it a bit better, and so I'm more connected to that one. So that would be the one.
Gorgeous. Awesome.
I remember that with the picture of the holding cell and where people were standing and what was going on.
Yeah.
And how he had already pictured that in his mind before they went to shoot it.
Yeah, he had everything all written out.
Sue, what do you think? You look very ready. You've definitely crammed.
No, I haven't. I haven't crammed.
I mean, just now.
I can't. I'm looking at. Obviously, I'm looking at the episodes. I've been looking at them all day because I figured you were going to ask, "What's your favorite?" I don't have a favorite, but I think season 5. Well, I'm always harping on the same thing that I love about Deep Space Nine is the character development. The characters are so deep, and I appreciate that. That's what gets you hooked on a show, I think, at least for me. Mm-hmm. I think the development on this season 5 was the most of any other. Well, so far, it's from what we've seen, I think they really dug deep into some of the characters. I don't know if it was a combination of writing and what the actors turned out they could do, I have no idea how they do things like that, but I just think that, like Nog and Jake, they completely, Nog is not a thieving little annoying little Ferengi. He's a smart, stands up to Klingons. He's, like I keep saying, he's commander material. Jake grows up in this season. He sees some terrible things and he does some cool things, and I just think it was a great season in general. There's so much packed into this season. It's just amazing. I don't know how they do it. I'm now owning an actual costume. I'm thinking, how long did they have to make a costume? Cirroc, what you're saying is true. Did they have a day to make costumes if they changed a script or changed something major? That they could have. The detail that goes into every episode, the stuff that we don't necessarily talk about every time, but they have to build a what do you call it, a set or whatever, the background for a planet. I was watching this Enterprise, the episode, and I was thinking, where'd they get those plants? And I wonder where they filmed that. And every little detail, there's probably 25 extras in the background. They all had to have clothes. So when did they start making those clothes? So it's the same, again, I'm veering off course a little bit, but there was just so much development from the beginning of season 5 to the end. There's a huge amount of things that happened. Absolutely. It's just amazing. It's a great season. I give it a 10.
Echoing our sentiments from the beginning of the recording, where it's just like shocking when you look back at the first episode of the season being Apocalypse Rising, when the 4 of them are like Klingons infiltrating. We're like, wow, that feels like a lifetime ago.
It does.
Odo was a human.
Right. Melissa, do you have a favorite or a few favorites?
I do have a few favorites. I am going to say Trials and Tribulations because I do think it should always get mentioned, because visually it is stunning. It's a work of art. It's so beautiful. The colors are so vibrant and fresh and rich, and you definitely feel like you're in a different space station, different time than Deep Space Nine. And I love the contrast that it shows, and it doesn't feel forced. It feels organic, and it just feels like, we have journeyed into the past, into this other time. So I do think that should get mentioned. But also, I'm going to echo Eve with Empok Nor, because that, again, a whole different tone of show, a whole different episode, and they do it beautifully, from the lighting to change, redressing the set, and the music helped too. And then also In the Cards, I love that one, and the very last episode, I think, as well, because it was just brilliant.
Call to Arms.
Yes. Yeah.
Cirroc, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely a lot of growth with characters in this season. Obviously, I think I would say that Nog, Jake, and Lita have the biggest growth this year. And then we begin the journey of kind of Odo's relationship growth, and also, the Worf Dax growth. So those are going to be huge as well. So I like this season. My favorite, obviously, for me, for personal reasons, going to be Northern Battle to the Strong. I remember filming it. I remember it being like a coming of age story for Jake, having to deal with some real adult situations. And I like the fact that he was facing more mature kind of content for his character to kind of latch on to. And then my other favorite episode is the last episode that Robert Wolf joined us for to discuss. I think Call to Arms was an excellent way to end a season. If you want to leave the audience wanting more, the fact that they divided the cast up into those that went to the Defiant and those that stayed back, I think is excellent writing. And I would say that also is just one of my top episodes. I really like the way the relationships were played out in that final episode, where you had people like Odo and Kira have a real serious adult talk about where they stand relationship wise. You had Garrick, having a talk with Zial about how he felt. There were moments there that I thought were really good for showing how much the characters care about each other and how much was on the line for the survival of Deep Space Nine.
All right. So we have a couple minutes left. I'm gonna highlight 3 episodes myself. Nor the Battle to the Strong, The Ascent, and In the Cards, because those are magnificent Jake and or Nog episodes. There's too many to name beyond that, so we'll stick with those. Because since we have 2 minutes left, here's a rapid fire question. Jake becomes an adult, right? A writer, and he stays on the station. Nog becomes an adult and is now a cadet on the Defiant. Odo becomes a solid and then back to a gooey guy. He has his first intimacy. Kira and Odo get together. Garrick and Zial have things going on. Bashir becomes a super genius. All these things. Who do you think had the best or most interesting character arc in season 5? In 5 seconds or less, Homer.
How about that? Being put on the spot and going first, I'm going to say Odo. And the reason being is that it was hinted at, I think, in season 1, that he had a soft spot for Kira, and you kind of picked up on it. And finally, there's something that's out there. So he has gone from, as you say, from goo to solid to goo to romantic interest, possibly. But and it was really cool the way that he did this. Like, we've got this battle going on, so maybe we just put this to the side for now. And yeah, that's good. I feel better already.
Melissa, do you have a favorite character arc?
5 seconds or less, I'm gonna say Nog.
Good one.
Too long, didn't I?
No. Sue, what about you?
I say Nog. I don't need 5 seconds.
You could almost say that for the whole 7 seasons, right? Kind of the best character arc. What do you think, Eve?
I think I'm actually going to say Bashir, just because I think the fact that when he sort of almost becomes unshackled from this secret that he has, he just becomes a totally different character. And I feel like he just matures so much in this season from, when you see him in the prison camp to then how he is then at the end, and how much more mature and confident he seems. I always think that's quite interesting with Bashir.
Totally. TJ, your thoughts?
Okay, first of all, Nog, but my non-obvious answer is Quark.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we've seen him go to testify, although they got shot down, and then we saw him grow a conscience when he stopped selling weapons.
Very good. Yeah. That was what episode was that? It was Business as Usual, right?
Yes.
And then The Ascent was where he was going to testify against the Orion.
Right. That was with Odo, the one on the mountain.
Yeah.
Right.
And then Ferengi love songs with all the people beaming into his closet.
Yeah.
Right.
And he had to get his mom back together.
Cirroc, what do you think? Biggest character growth? I don't know if you can hear us. Oh, there you are.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Biggest growth, I would say, is Nog.
Mm-hmm.
And second to that would be Jake.
Awesome. I think I'm going to agree with that. Jake and Nog, FTW. That's about it. But we do have to run. Boy, there's a lot more to talk about on season 5 than we expected. It's just, when you look over all the titles, you realize what an incredible season this was. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. Homer, Eve, Sue, TJ, Melissa, for Cirroc, Lofton, Aron Eisenberg, and myself, and Russ Hasledge of Odyssey Radio. Thank you all very much. And always remember the 7th rule.